along with flooding and damage.
And you couldn't really hear us hollering. We were in a full panic.
Plus, new information about California's park fire and the fishing trip that ended with a very unexpected catch.
So that's a really unique catch. You don't see them very often at that size.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. A hurricane warning is now posted for the island Bermuda as Ernesto gains strength as it heads north in the Atlantic Ocean. The storm battered Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands yesterday with heavy rain and tropical storm force winds. The biggest issue here this morning is power. At one point, more than half the island did not have any. The island's power company reports those numbers have improved this morning, with about a third still in the dark. The electrical grid there is considered outdated and is still recovering from damage caused by Hurricane Maria in 2017. In the Virgin Islands, though, more than half of the homes and businesses are still without power. You heard it there. The sound of chainsaws could be heard across the island as crews work to clean up the damage from the wind. Up to 10 inches of rain also fell in some parts of Puerto Rico, turning streets like this one into a flooded mess. There are still isolated flood warnings around the island as well. President Biden approved an emergency declaration for Puerto Rico. Eyes now shift, though, to Bermuda, where the hurricane is expected to make landfall early Saturday. Florida meteorologist Lauren Oleski is tracking Ernesto for us this morning.
Here's the storm right now. It's got winds of 85 miles per hour. We're seeing gusts around 100 to 105. This is going to continue to move off towards the north. We're all the way over here. This is not a threat to us. This little speck, though, that's Bermuda. They have to watch this very closely. Again, likely becoming a Cat 2 sometime by the end of the day today, continuing to move north. It might briefly be a 3 at some point, and then, of course, moving into colder waters of the northern Atlantic, it'll dissipate. There is a hurricane warning, in effect for Bermuda. Again, they're going to have to watch Ernesto very closely. So our name list for the year, next name on our list is Francine, and then Gordon. Hurricane season runs until November 30th.
And as Ernesto makes its way around, it could cause a major risk of rip currents along the East Coast. Meteorologist Donnie Cox explains rip currents and how you can stay safe if you ever get caught in one.
As we go through the weekend, Hurricane Ernesto could increase our rip current threat, so be sure you can identify those rip currents. Best thing, of course, if you see the red flag, stay out of the water. That's the best thing. But if you get into the water, get caught in a current, don't fight the current. Just swim parallel to the shore. And then when you escape the current, you can come back in. And if you find yourself in a situation and can't escape, then try floating or treading water. But by all means, if you need help, yell out, call out, and wave for assistance. Now, what will happen? You see Ernesto passing 400 or 500 miles off the coast all weekend. Increased rip currents, that's certainly a threat. High surf, and then the ocean overwatch. That could create problems with some roads along the coastal areas, and of course, beach erosion. So keep that in mind. Be safe as you head to the beaches this weekend, especially with Ernesto passing just off the coast. I'm meteorologist Donnie Cox.
Well, forecasters expect this to be an extremely active hurricane season. While there have only been 5 named storms so far, we have not hit peak hurricane season yet. But as meteorologist Riley Blackwell explains, it is just around the corner.
We are slowly approaching the climatological peak of hurricane season, which is September 10th. We're still going up the hill before we have to make it down the hill. But first, let's look at somewhat of a medium range outlook. This is the Global Tropical Hazards Outlook. And currently, from August 21st through 27th, we have a greater than 20% chance of a tropical depression forming. However, looking past that to the next week, August 28th through September 3rd, we have an area that has a greater than 60% chance of a tropical depression forming. That's as we get closer to the climatological peak, which, remember, is September 10th. So while the hurricane season has been relatively quiet, we have to wait for the tropics to start firing up.
There is a 2 out of 5 risk for storms today in the Midwest, including Chicago, Kansas City, and also St. Louis. Severe thunderstorms could bring damaging winds and large hail. A couple of tornadoes could also happen. There is a slightly lower risk of storms in a wider area of the Midwest and plains, as well as in New England today. As for the heat, though, the Deep South will bake again today with heat alerts stretching from Florida all the way to Texas. Excessive heat warnings where the temperatures could approach or even exceed 100 degrees are posted from Tulsa all the way to New Orleans. And severe weather surprised some folks in Utah this week. And that is the sound of hail shredding leaves as it fell near Salt Lake City Tuesday evening. In fact, so much hail fell that road crews called in snowplows to clear from I-15. Not exactly what you expect to see in August, even in the mountains of Utah. While the hail is all gone, damage from the storm remains, from flooded basements to roofs that were severely damaged. Kristen McPeak has more.
We were running for towels and buckets and hollering, and you couldn't really hear us hollering. We were in a full panic.
That's Jeff Garner. He's showing us the aftermath of this. A huge tree through the roof, sending water pouring inside.
Missed the fan.
Right when they thought the damage was done,
We opened up the closet. Well, there's still branches. A quake and aspen came through, and everything in here is soaking wet.
the storm is something that Orem Public Works Director Chris Shirkey has never experienced.
That basically exceeds a 100-year storm event.
What kind of things did you learn from this that maybe other cities would take note of?
Be prepared as much as possible for an event.
He says this goes for the rest of us as well.
Evaluate your property, look at what's happened in the past, look to determine if your property is lower than the road itself, and then identify those areas where you feel like you might have some damage.
Jeff says he's prepared. This, though, happened so fast. And he says the help of everyone has been exceptional.
Thanks to a lot of friends and neighbors, they came and helped us get the tree off the roof, and we're waiting on insurance now.
Debbie brought heavy rain and flooding to South Carolina, and while that caused damage to several homes and also businesses, there was a silver lining to all that water. The state saw major relief to its drought conditions. Gianna Forbes has more.
After a drought for the last few weeks, Debbie not only brought historic rainfall, but started repairing the rivers from their lack of water.
They downgraded most of the state to normal levels.
The drought is over, but the levels of rainfall brought by Debbie were far from normal.
For a normal August rainfall for this area would be anywhere from 4.5 to maybe 5.5 inches.
What are some parts of South Carolina seeing? 3 times that amount.
There's certainly things that we are seeing that we're monitoring that indicate we're seeing some changes in these excessive rainfall events and rainfall rates.
Getting out of a severe drought is good for the rivers, but the drastic flooding after causing farmers to lose their crops.
When you get that amount of rain in that short amount of time, that can cause some pretty serious issues, whether it's flooding, whether it's actual crops going underwater.
Some parts of our environment thankful for the rain, while others having to find ways to adapt to it.
In California, the park fire is still burning and containment efforts continue, but people living in the village of Mineral started returning home on Wednesday after evacuation orders were downgraded. Max Tedford has more.
Last few days, our crews have been really able to make a good effort on this fire. Right now, the concentration is working along the roadways, working in the areas that have been difficult to get to.
Dwayne Bear, a battalion chief and acting public information officer for the park fire, says a combination of the cooler temperatures this week and aggressive efforts by firefighters have allowed them to make major ground on containing the massive blaze.
Fire is ever changing. You never know what fire is going to do, or it does look good. With the containment, we're up to 40% in containment and continue to grow each and every day.
Despite that unpredictability, Bear says what fire officials are seeing on the lines and the lack of smoke in the air made them comfortable to allow residents of Mineral to return.
Ability to get people back on is always a high priority, but we want it to be safe.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Maine and find out what officials are doing to help make the coastline more resilient to severe weather. And also we'll learn about the worm wreaking havoc on Alabama farms.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. Your highs in the Northeast today will range from 70s throughout most of New England to 80s through a good chunk of New York. and through parts of New Jersey. Will be brightest over western zones. Here we are during the morning hours with a fair amount of sun. We will see some more clouds develop during the course of the day throughout parts of New England, and there will be some showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon. Friday, skies go partly sunny. It's a pretty good looking end of the work week. There's a chance for an isolated shower.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Thursday will still be dry. We're not expecting any rainfall until later into Friday. And then this weekend, our next storm system will arrive, bringing us decent chances for scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout this weekend, but not a total washout. Temperatures will be pretty seasonable. Upper 80s, but otherwise into the mountains, upper 70s. Will be a few degrees warmer going into Friday. Still looking at near 90 degrees with the exception of the mountains in the upper 70s.
Good Thursday morning. Meteorologist Michael Araber with a check of your southeast regional forecast for this Thursday. There will be some spotty showers and storms working their way through central and south Florida during the mid to late part of the afternoon hours. A few scattered showers for parts of the interior sections of North, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, Mississippi, and working their way through Louisiana. And then more storms working their way into western Kentucky later on in the evening hours. Forecast high temperatures like you'd expect here in August in the upper 80s and low 90s throughout the southeast.
The National Weather Desk.
Well, this year, Maine saw several large storms impact its coast. Now, officials are working to not only rebuild the ravaged wharfs, but also make the waterfront more resistant to powerful storms in the future. Brad Rogers has more.
Record storms in January dealt a major blow to the majority of Maine's working waterfront, washing away or damaging wharves up and down the coast.
That was two storms back to back, and either one of those storms would have been a catastrophe on its own. And I think that we should be planning for a future where those things happen much more often. We're starting the Go Fish Fund that would be a flexible, problem-solving fund to respond so that we can go and act.
This wharf in Harpswell survived the January storms. Dock workers believe the wooden wharf it replaced wouldn't have made it.
These pylons held up remarkably well.
The state of Maine was just awarded more than $70 million in federal climate resiliency funds to help wharf owners rebuild from the January storms. Part of the money from the Go Fish Fund will be used to bring in experts to better design wharves to withstand future storms.
I think that's actually a really good idea. I mean, the weight alone of the concrete really actually helped keep everything right into place.
We're at a tipping point. Disruption is coming, and we can be ready for it.
It's absolutely critical. I mean, without these docks, I'm not quite sure how a lot of these guys would be able to do what they do.
We told you yesterday about army worms damaging lawns across the South, but that's not all. They're also wreaking havoc on hayfields. Gracie Johnson spoke to one hay farmer who says it's the worst army worm infestation he's seen in 13 years.
I have about 150 acres of hay that I work over each year, and I have been hitting army worms in all 4 of those fields.
Tommy White has been farming for most of his life. He says army worms are something they keep an eye out for every year. This year, he found them sooner than others.
Everybody has their own schedule. If I find one, I'm usually checking it every day. If I don't find anything, I check it about every 3rd day.
White found a fair share of army worms eating his hay fields starting in June. This year already, he's treated his fields with insecticides 3 times.
We sprayed, and then we come back about 4 days later, still had them. So we sprayed again. We made another mixture, used a little bit different kind that time of the chemical, and we pretty much knocked it out but they had destroyed our Bermuda.
White says on this field here, they usually average around 80 rolls of hay. Due to the armyworm infestation, this time they're only expecting to get around 50.
You can do the math on that and see it was pretty costly to us, but especially the bale of hay now at $65 to $75 a bale retail when you're selling, if you're selling it, or if you're feeding it to the cows, that still comes off the cost of the bottom line.
And we have all been told of the dangers of a mother bear protecting her cubs. Recently, one California woman helped a jogger survive this exact scenario. Madison Chiavi has the story.
I see this young man running down the road and a bear literally chasing and biting at him.
The story that unfolded right before one neighbor's eyes has even her in shock.
His shirt's flapping in the wind. It was just shredded, and he didn't have one of his shoes on all the way. So he's literally running with the shoe not on. And I of course I freak. I scream to my husband. I'm like, oh my God, it's a bear.
The man already had scratches and bites, it appeared, and neighbors called 911.
The young man is standing on the roof of our Escalade. The bear is standing at the Escalade, and she's trying to climb up. So she has her foot on the running board, and she's literally jumping up at him, wanting to get on the roof, just wanting to attack him.
When they were finally able to scare the bear away, they helped the jogger off the roof of the Escalade and got to work on his injuries.
It was just one of these things that you see in movies.
This photo shared with us by another neighbor who believes it's this bear, pregnant 4 to 5 weeks ago, that attacked the jogger this week, protecting her cubs. Right place, right time for a neighbor and her family who cared for the jogger until paramedics arrived.
We feel blessed we were there to be able to help this kid in need, because it was one of these situations, it could have been life or death.
Now to another story. Imagine this, heading out to catch fish, but ending up with a great white shark caught on your fishing line. That's what happened to a fisherman off the coast of Rhode Island. Gabriella Caraccioli has that story.
It really is a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Eric Willer is no stranger to these waters off the coast of Point Judith.
My family's business is in this area, fishing and everything.
But this fishing trip aboard the Lady Francis quickly took a turn.
When I first saw it, I was like, I thought I knew what it was, but I didn't believe it.
A small great white shark, only 4.5 to 5 feet long, accidentally got caught on his line.
But I was like, folks, that's a great white shark. It swam away like nothing happened. Worst thing is a small hook in the very corner of its mouth.
That's a newborn white shark, so that's a really unique catch. You don't see them very often at that size.
John Dodd runs the Atlantic Shark Institute. He says sightings like this are a good sign for the vulnerable species.
Just to see them is a real treat. Never mind to have it then swim around the boat. That's good for the sharks, and it's good for everybody who's involved and who loves the ocean.
Willer couldn't agree more.
Have one here, especially just a few miles off the beach in New England, is pretty interesting.
Bath County, Kentucky has a unique claim to fame. It's the place where a meat shower happened nearly a century and a half ago. And the proof of that infamous event is back in its original locker. Alyssa Williams has this one.
Bath County, specifically Olympia Springs, is the home of the Kentucky Meat Shower.
On March 3rd of 1876, Mrs. Rebecca Crouch was outside with her grandson, and out of the clear blue sky, meat started to rain down.
And they gathered up what was remaining, and they say that it was a horse wagon full, and I'm sure that everyone knows exactly how much meat that means. And then I think people in the area ate it.
A slice of the meat was saved from the phenomenon and has been under the care of Transylvania University. But on Saturday, the Bath County History Museum got to return this sliver back to its original meat locker.
A lot of people left here impressed and enjoyed very, very interesting stories. Actually, it came from other people who had relatives or descendants. They were descendants of people that visited or saw it back when it happened.
Transylvania University arts professor Kurt Godey explains some of the theories researchers have on what kind of meat it is and how it got there.
One includes there's a weather pattern where winds will pick up small fish and frogs and then they lay them down in another place. For me, the vulture vomit theory is the only one that feels possible.
Cody says while the studying and DNA testing of the meat have been inconclusive, it's been fleshing out the speculation.
Just to be in a space where everyone who walks through the door knows the story, and many of them feel like a personal connection to the story, is an incredible experience.
And time now for a short break, but first we take in views around Seattle and Washington State.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We've got these scattered showers and storms slowly moving their way to the east across the Midwest for the day today. A little cooler to the far north. Got some 70s for highs and how about 97 there in Wichita for the day today. Showers and storms just kind of slowly drifting their way into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley for Friday with sunshine across a lot of the plains. And we'll continue that sunshine heading into Saturday as that rain continues to slowly drift east for Saturday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off the day a little bit on the warm side, all the way down from the coastal areas, from Brownsville, even into Shreveport and Dallas. Temperatures into the 80s today. We'll be watching a weak cold front push in, trough out toward the west. Sea breeze showers here, scattered showers from the Panhandle into Oklahoma. Going to be another summer day. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson, and here's what's happening across the West. We've still got hot temperatures for parts of Southern California, into parts of Southern Nevada, and into Arizona and New Mexico. We do have cooler weather that's been heating up here in the Pacific Northwest, and that is leading to all the fire weather concerns that we've got as a new storm system moves in, bringing showers and thunderstorms. We've got air quality issues, but the wildfire danger stretching into southern Idaho and Nevada. That's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This looks like a chunk of rainbow, but it's a circumhorizontal arc or fire rainbow. They form with the sun high in the sky. Light enters plate-shaped ice crystals and cirrus clouds, then bends and separates the light into these colors. This heavy rain shaft was spotted near Mobile, Alabama on Tuesday. So was this shaft during storms in Utah. Notice the clear line showing where it's pouring and where it's not.
Fall is quickly approaching, and that means sun angles are declining as we approach the equinox. Meteorologist Eric Dumbroka explains.
Fall is just around the corner, and you can see the evidence even in the sun angles that are declining. Right around the summer solstice, the sun makes a 74-degree angle to the horizon. Check it out, though, here in the middle of August, that angle now down to 65 degrees. So also, it's just getting a lot lower in the sky and eventually producing a lot less heat. By the time we get to that autumn equinox, closer to 50 degrees on September 22nd. So in addition to that, we see those smaller sun angles and less daylight contribute to those cooler temperatures.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.